Hello, Des.
How's it going, Esther?
I'm going. Yeah, I said I'm going well. I'm doing well. All right. So for those who don't know, Desmond is my brother from APX. He's
That's right.
also, come on now. He's also a good friend. We went to college together. We keep in touch every so year,
It's not that bad. Every
every
like
so often,
few
every so
months.
often.
Yeah,
And Des is like who everyone should aspire to be like.
I wouldn't go that far. Aim
Okay.
higher. Aim
He's
higher.
okay. So he's a very, very noble person. He is an architect out in Georgia. And he was the perfect candidate to ask to do this interview with because I'm gonna tell you right now, if there was anybody else gonna think about to put on here who envisioned their vision, it would be you. Definitely you.
Aw, oh man,
So
that means a
envision your
lot.
no problem. So for just to give you a brief synopsis, envision your vision is something that I created last year, and it's a I guess we can say that it's a segment that I've been doing and I'm trying to continue to do to inspire, motivate, and help people who may not have a vision for their life, may not have vision for where they're going, what is it that they want, and even at this time, some may not even know what I mean when I say that. I mean have a strategic plan of where they're going, how they're going to get there, what do they need to do, goals, and making sure that it falls in line with the purpose or whatever it is that they have for their life. Because if things are not working well in your life, it makes sense to go back and be like, hey, is what am I doing or is what I'm doing coinciding with what I have envisioned or I have planned to get to my vision? So that's why I wanted to do this. And I'm so excited because I'm just going to mess with him, guys, because that's what I do. But of course, with reason, with reason. So, for those who do not know you, Desmond, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you. And first, I'm excited to be doing this as well. For the opportunity to share, I guess, my vision, even though I don't know if it's as clear as it appears to other people.
Mhm.
Um, I, I think there's a lot to be learned about myself in talking about my own vision or lack thereof in some cases.
Right.
So, um, Desmond Johnson, born and raised in Columbia, South Carolina. I am a proud alumnus of Florida A&M University, which is where Esther and I met. And as she mentioned, I work as a licensed architect in Atlanta, and I've been here for about 8 years now. Time has flown. Um, and that's who I am in a professional setting. I'm an architect. I am an advocate for architects, an advocate for young people of color who are trying to attain their goals, either in this profession or other professions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mentor, and I'm trying to do more with my life. So there's a
Come on,
vision out there that I'm trying to continue to expose, but there's a process there.
come on, I like that. So, sir, you forgot your middle name.
I didn't forget it.
I was gonna cut you off, but I was like, I'm gonna get him later.
We're not on that level just yet.
All right, we won't tell the people what your middle name is. It's okay. So the next thing I want to ask, since you already talked about where you're from, um, just so other people would know, how many siblings do you have?
So I have two siblings. I have an older brother. He's 1 year older than me,
Mm-hmm.
and an older sister. She's 1 year older than him. So we're all pretty close in age, and it made growing up interesting. My siblings they're overachievers, and I hated it growing up because I was the youngest, and I always had to try to somehow exist in their footsteps, even
Wow.
with teachers or with extracurricular activities. People knew my brother and my sister, and I had to somehow be the third Johnson to carry the lineage. But now, I mean, they're my biggest sources of inspiration. They're a huge part of why I am who I am today, and I'm so motivated and driven by them and by their success, not
Wow.
their career success, but just who they are as people. So
That's good. Um, would you say you would also put them in the same category of who inspires you?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Um, Deeply inspired by my brother, my sister. My sister is, I say that I'm an advocate or a mentor. She is an advocate and a mentor.
Mhm.
She works with youth. She's breaking down barriers and walls pertaining to social justice and inequities when it comes to like academia.
Wow.
So I'm inspired by that. And then my brother is really, past couple of years, past few years, really helped me understand the importance of like self-care,
Yeah,
the importance of like not getting so caught up in the rat race of life and taking time to enjoy the little things in life. See, I'm deeply inspired by them.
that's good. Wow. I feel like I was telling you that too.
Well, it's funny because I feel like people have told me that, and I feel like I'm really starting to understand it now that I am officially in my 30s. Like
Yeah,
time is going by, and I need to like enjoy the time that's here. I need to be more present, and
exactly.
yeah,
I be saying that to my husband. I'm like, please be present because the time goes by, and then no. Let me say this is what I would say: be present because if you work so hard to get somewhere, you might miss out on a lot of things. And by the time you get there, you're gonna be like, oh, it's not what I thought it was gonna be.
exactly,
So
exactly.
enjoy the moment because you're not just going to the top to go help other people. Take some people with you. See
It,
what's
it,
on the sceneries.
it's not just about the destination; it's also about the journey, and
Exactly.
enjoying that journey is critical. It's crucial.
Awesome. So now that we're talking about journeys, I would love for you to kind of walk the people through your vision before you and before you even say what your vision is, kind of like help guide them in understanding, especially since you are an architect. Is that something you've always envisioned yourself doing? Is that a stepping stone for something that you actually envision? And give us as much detail as possible because what I always say, vision is about being strategic, being specific, and being able to define what it is that you see. It's something that you're working towards it now as if it's already here. You know, so please, the floor is yours.
That is that's a lot of responsibility. I'm not sure if my shoulders can
No,
carry
no,
the
no,
weight
no,
of
no.
that.
You don't have to. You don't have to paint any picture that's not there, but just your journey. You
Well,
know.
even telling my own story can sometimes feel monumental. Um, but yeah, I'll take it back to the womb. No, not that far back. No. So
About to get to a docu series.
I don't know if I've always wanted to be an architect, but certainly for as long as I knew that architects design buildings. I grew up liking buildings, looking at buildings on like family trips or even in my local, like in my hometown.
Yeah.
And so I think I Googled one day who designs buildings, and I realized that that's what architects did. And so from that point on, I just decided that's what I want to be. So going to FAM, um, struggling through that architecture program just a bit. Um, and it's a great program. I had a blast with the experience. I mean, it's an experience like none other going through an architecture degree program. And I think at FAMU, that's a heightened, and I think Esther can agree with that. Um,
We're gonna leave it at that.
yeah, so challenges, some professors who really discouraged me either actively or passively, um, about how viable a career path is in architecture for me.
What professor? What professor?
We're not going there. Trying to get me in trouble.
Stop it. Stop.
But it was also really like clear to me, and think like we had the benefit of studying at an HBCU,
Mm-hmm.
but we also had majority non-black professors.
That's true. Yeah,
So
and international ones as well.
correct. So even just going to an HBCU and seeing the people who are in the profession not looking like me, even though the students did, that does something to your psyche when you know that this profession or has less than 2% a black population.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, when I finished at FAM in 2013, I moved to Atlanta and took an internship with a small firm here. It's a small 6, 7 person firm, and we mostly did restaurants and small retail. So that was my first like small firm experience.
Hmm.
That same year, I started grad school at Georgia Tech, and that was a completely different experience from the experience at FAM. Um, One being in a larger city, being at a school that has, I think, a much more vast network. I
Yeah.
don't think it's as tight of a network. I mean, points for FAM there,
Hmm.
but just a different type of network really helped with my journey. So I worked through school at a different firm now, and I graduated with my master's in 2015. Um, when I graduated, I knew that I really, really wanted to be like an architect, a licensed architect. For those people who are not familiar with the process, it involves several tests. It
Hmm.
involves getting that degree, and it involves getting um, kind of apprenticeship or internship hours
Hmm.
working under a registered architect. Um, Thankfully, because I worked while I was in school, I had a lot of those required hours, and all I had to do upon graduating was take my tests, and there are 7 tests. They're very expensive,
Yes.
and they're and that is a barrier to entry, right? Most other professions don't require you to put out so much money up front just to call yourself, a something, an
Yeah.
architect or a surgeon, whatever it is. Um, but I did it. So I took all my tests in 2015 and 2016. I got my license within 1 year of graduating um, from grad school.
Yeah.
And at the time that I was licensed, I was the
But,
youngest. Oh,
but don't glaze over
okay,
the
okay.
the fact that you were able to take all those tests back to back to back. Okay.
Yeah, so it was I liken it to what I tell people all the time is it's if you've ever been driving on a long road trip and it's getting dark, you're getting tired, do you stop and pull over, spend the night and get up and do it all over again, or do you just motor through it? And so I just chose to motor through it and just knock them out.
That's admirable. For those of y'all who don't know, most people cannot do that. Okay.
No, most people
Not
can do
not
that.
that not all. How many people do you know did exactly what you did? A lot of people I know are taking it little by little, step by step.
I think it's a conscious choice, and I don't think one way is better than any other way.
Yeah.
I had the luxury of not having a lot of other obligations during that time.
Hmm.
So I could just put my head down and focus on studying. Like I acknowledge that some people have lives, right? I didn't have a life. So it was easy to dedicate the time to studying and it worked out.
Okay.
So
Sorry for cutting you off. All right. So now you're licensed. So how
now
was
I'm
that
licensed
experience?
and
Hmm.
I was I was told that I was the youngest licensed architect in the state of Georgia when I got licensed, which sounds more important than it is. I mean, there's it sounds cool to say, um,
Say it with your
but
chest. That's a big accomplishment.
well, I think I'm more proud of I am proud of that for sure, but I'm more proud to be counted in the number of Black architects. Right, there are so few Black architects, and there's a directory that anyone can look up, and I'm happy to share the link with you.
Hmm.
Um, and it's really sad. It's really pitiful. So I'm more proud to be counted in that number now.
Yeah.
So that's my journey to my professional quote unquote success.
Yeah.
And that was 4.5 years ago, and things have only gone upward from there. So I'm looking
Nice.
forward to what's to come.
All right. So then I guess back to the original question. I know you said you didn't actually always want to be an architect per se. You kind of just fell into it. But now that you are an architect, and you're working and you're now you're part of that number, what would you say is your ongoing vision for your life and what it is that you hope to see? if this was part of that vision and now you get to check a goal off, do you feel like you see everything that you always wanted?
I love that question. And the idea of vision is so nuanced. It's funny when you say vision, the first thing I think of, maybe I'm aging myself, not aging, but
Hmm.
um, is the sitcom That's So Raven, where she used to have visions and see
Right.
what the future held. So I do think that's a part of a vision. Part of it is being intentional about where we're going and what our future looks like,
Hmm.
because we're not victims, we are active participants in creating our future.
Right.
Um, the other part of it, and I'm going to tell a funny little story. When I was um, when I was buying my last car, I decided to buy a car for myself as a gift,
Yeah.
and I knew what kind of car I wanted, and I went and I test drove my dream car. And when I test drove it, like I was looking around, it's an SUV. I was on the highway and I was looking in my blind spot and realizing I couldn't see anything. Like couldn't see anything. The blind spot in that car was horrible.
Wow.
Um, and that particular vehicle, you can upgrade to a vision package, which provides like more cameras, provides like blind spot monitoring. And I'm going somewhere with this,
No,
right?
I'm fine.
um, but what became like clear to me is that like without having that vision package, which was an upgrade,
Hmm.
like driving that car was just it wasn't functional. Like I would not have purchased that car without it. And I think so often we go through life with we have the gifts, we have our treasures, right? That was that
Hmm.
car, but we don't have the vision package. We're not aware of what's in our blind spot. So sometimes
Mm-mm.
I I just say that to say I think that vision is not just about what's ahead of us.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's about being fully aware of what's around us in this moment. Um, so even if you don't know where you want to be in 5 or 10 years, I think that's okay. Um, but you should be hyper aware of what's around you, what's happening in your life right now, and how to best navigate that.
Wow.
So
That was
just
good, Dad.
to, I'm just trying to tie it back into like living in the moment.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know where I'll be in 5 or 10 years. I don't know where um, the vision will take me. I have desires, I have dreams, I have goals,
Hmm.
and some of those include like opening my own firm at some point, and a firm that does not just architecture and design, but also real estate development, commercial real estate development, so that I or me and my partners and me and my team can be decisive about which communities we go into and what those developments look like.
Yeah.
So that's a vision. That's something that I want to happen at some point. When? I don't know. How? I don't know. But I think having that idea, having that focus, having that drive will keep me on the straight and narrow until I can one day get there.
I like that. The one thing that kind of stuck out to me, because I've never actually thought about it like that, was being fully aware of your surroundings. I always, because vision is so, I guess we look at it where it's like so straightforward. Like I have to look at one direction and kind of have like a tunnel vision and only push towards that. Just like how you have the race horses, you have the dividers and the blinders.
Blinders. Hmm.
And it's like, don't look at the other horses, just stay focused because you're going to get distracted. But it's good to think about it now where it's like, it's not knowing what's around you to be distracted. It's knowing what's around you in order to be fully aware of whether or not you're off course, whether or not you're getting too close to something that you shouldn't, whether or not you might be veering off. And I think that's really a good lesson to think about because, we want to know what's in our blind spots. Before you switch lanes or you're about to make a large decision, you want to
Right.
know what are those things that might be, kind of in the way of you getting there. So I do want people to take out of this that they should be focused, they should have a directive, but I also want them to realize that I'm not saying be so focused that you forget what's around you. I still want you to consider that in the plan. Consider the people that are helping you or the people who are not helping you, the friends, not friends, like kind of weigh out everything.
Right.
I'm a throw a verse out there, but it's not, I don't know the verses, but I remember I heard it before in the Bible. It says, consider the cost. And I remember I wrote a blog one time and I said, it was called The Cost of Vision. And I think people have to realize that there is a cost that comes with it. There is something that you have to sacrifice, you have to be willing to give up. And I think your determination, even though now you said you're 30 and you're realizing that you should really be in the moment, but there was a cost in the beginning, which, like you said, you had no life. You had to literally sacrifice not having a life in order to speed through those tests. And now, like you said, you didn't have to get off the road. You were able
Yeah.
to just speed through it. And now it's just like, all right, check. Not everyone's like that, but it doesn't mean what you did wasn't also a good thing too. It's just count the cost of everything it would take, who's around you, and what do you need. So I really do like that analogy.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You broke it down well. Um, yeah, there is significant cost to everything, and sometimes I was that person who um, had the blinders up and was only focused on what was in front of me, not paying attention to what was right next to me. Sometimes that's people, sometimes it's other opportunities.
Mm.
And I probably neglected certain things, certain friendships, certain relationships, certain familial obligations, um, just because I knew where I wanted my future vision to be, but wasn't responding to the vision or the blind spots that were like around me in the moment.
Yeah.
So it's a delicate balance between the two.
And that kind of answers the next question I was going to ask you, which what was the sacrifice? And you kind of answered that in the moment you had to sacrifice people, opportunities in order to know. But this is why I like this conversation, Des, and why I care so much about vision is because you know where you're going. Like when you were in the car, you didn't just drive off and say, well, let's see where this takes me.
Yeah.
Let's autopilot. And I think that's what people do. They get into life. My husband said this one time to me. They get into life and they're just responding. They're just responding. Oh, got a baby. Got to respond to this. Oh, I just got this new job. Got to respond to. So it's like it's a bunch of responses. There's no real plan. It's just life threw some stuff at you, and you're kind of just holding it. But what I'm hoping that people get out of this video, and in general for what my mission in life is that don't take your hands off the wheel and say, let's
Right.
figure it out. I want you to actually know where you're going because you knew that you wanted to be an architect, even if it wasn't so early on and it kind of shaped itself. You were able to stay focused, know where you're going, and you know what that also means, you know what roads are not going to take you there. So you already know what school. You didn't go to like a medical school. Like
Yeah.
that don't make sense.
Probably should have though. No.
So that's my point is like you made real decisions that was specific to what you wanted. And that's all I'm really trying to get people to get from that. So I really like that analogy. So the next question I have for you is because you kind of touched on a lot, but yeah, you really did touch on a lot. Okay, so some people think that age is sometimes a thing that they have to consider when it comes to their vision. And I'm too old, I'm too young, and I wanted to know, like, what is your stance on that about age, about pushing towards a purpose or a goal or an idea that
Yeah. Well, obviously, age is something, time is the one thing that none of us have control over,
you have?
right? If we are blessed to wake up tomorrow, it's a gift, it's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if people, I hope no one feels, I know people do feel this way, but I really don't want anybody to feel like they are too old to go after their dreams, right?
Yeah.
If you are blessed to be, have those years under your belt, with those years come wisdom and experience.
Yep.
Um, I hear a lot because I work with a lot of people who are younger than me, or who are like in my same peer group who feel that they are too young to go after their dreams, or too young to realize their dreams. Like they aren't old enough or experienced enough to take up space in a room.
Wow.
And to that, I say, like, push that to the side as well. Um, Creativity, ambition, um, they know no bounds, they know no age, they know no gender, no race. So as far as age goes, I think it's really important, um, for people to feel like, to have the audacity
Yeah.
to feel like they belong in whatever setting they want to be in. Period. Um, when I was the youngest architect in the state, I no longer hold that title, but when I was, obviously I would go into rooms and meetings even now, and I am the youngest person by several years or decades in said room, and I am running the meeting, and that's okay because I have the audacity to feel like I belong in this space.
Wow.
And that's I love the word audacity. I think people should embrace it and feel like they do belong, regardless of what they are facing, regardless if it's age, if it's gender, if it's race, or it's if you don't believe it, no one else is going to believe it. So I know it sounds really like Hallmark-esque, but it starts
No,
inside you.
no. It sounds good. No, right now I'm like, hey, I'm not putting that on a shirt. And
No.
don't
um,
I'm gonna take it from you because it's like I have the audacity to be in this space. Like I like that because I didn't even think about that. That younger people are probably like, I don't think it's time yet for me to really worry about being in those spaces. And to even switch gears a little bit, it's not even just age sometimes. Now we can even talk about sometimes being in a room and you're the only Black person. I hate to
yeah,
bring race into it, but
but it's
literally,
real.
I'm the only Black person.
It's real.
It's real. And I be looking, I'm like, wow. If someone was telling me that I would be in this meeting, and sometimes I'm running the meeting, sometimes I'm the one who's taking the notes, sometimes I'm the one they're asking questions to. And I would never have thought that people would actually look at me and be like, this is a professional. This is someone that, is in charge and who's managing this project. And I was doing an interview before this one, and what we talked about is just this idea of just not just being only present, of course, but the fact that when we're in these rooms and then we're in these spaces, that we should learn from the opportunity that's given to us.
Absolutely.
Like we may hate our job, but we have to look at it as an opportunity to learn something. I probably would never have learned project management the way I have learned it from my job. I would probably not learn how to manage a lot of people if it
Yeah.
wasn't for that. You may not see it as a skill set, but it will help you in the future depending on where you hope to be. So that was a good
Yeah.
one. I like that.
Yeah. And
Go ahead.
well, I'm reminded, and I say it starts within, but it doesn't always. Like one thing that I do outside of work, but it's really important to me. Um, so I am on the City of Atlanta's Urban Design Commission. I
Mhm.
was appointed in November of 2018, um, by the mayor and city council, and basically we review projects in the city of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Um, so when I joined the commission, I was by far the youngest person on the commission by a lot. Um, and then the following year, we were discussing as a commission, we vote on who's going to be chair and vice chair for the following year. And my fellow commissioners nudged me and said, "Hey, Desmond, you should do it." And it's not something that was on my radar, but hearing people have faith in me, it it let me know that maybe I should feel like I can take up space in this way. And it's a huge responsibility, right? To be chair of the Urban Design Commission of like the eighth largest city, um, and reviewing hundreds, if not thousands, of projects. Um, so it's a lot of responsibility, but um, when people, sometimes people see things in us that we don't see in ourselves, right? Talk about vision.
Yes.
Sometimes people have a clear vision of ourselves than we have
Yeah.
of us, and we should recognize that as well.
Yeah. I like that because I said that one time. I said a little bit in a different sense, but I said that everyone kind of have a perception or a perceived idea that they have for you and the life that they want for you. I'm pretty sure when you was at FAMU, one of those professors like, I can see you getting into landscape, and then you probably went to grad school like, oh, I can see you getting into environmental.
Yep.
Everyone has this perception that they think, but I think the one that's most important is what you brought up, the one where it's like, I see your capability, not so much what I think you should be doing as far as you should, do this. Anyone can give their input, but it's like after seeing the amount of growth that you have, I really want to push you to do something that it can really help you go further in that sense. So I just want people to realize that's another note with vision is that when you're disciplined in the skill set that you have, and you're creating relationships, you're allowing people to now see different parts of you, and you're opening more opportunity. I don't want people to only think that when I talk about vision, it's only about entrepreneurship, only about leaving your job, and only about I got to have such a concrete plan that I can never deviate from it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying don't take your hands off the wheel,
Yeah.
and then just look at everything as an opportunity instead of an obstacle, and see, instead of saying, I can't, like, how will I? That's kind of what I want people to start to see. There's so many avenues when it comes to vision that, just having these different interviews with people, they give me a new perspective. And then I'm just like, oh, I didn't think about that. So, like you said, it's very nuanced. So I think it's just something that everyone needs to realize that I have to have it, period. But then how do I navigate with the one that I have? And one more note is that I truly believe there's a vision that God gives everyone, because I think it's a preview of purpose. There are some people, they wake up one day as kids, little toddlers, they're doing something, and it's exactly what they're supposed to be doing, you know? And then there's some people where it's just like, we're figuring it out. But I think also in the figuring it out, you should have something for yourself. You should have a
Yeah.
vision for yourself and say, you know what? I don't know if this is what I'm put on this earth to do, but it's something I love to do. So I want to keep knocking at this door and see what comes about. And as I keep working, something will be growing. That's
Yeah.
all. That's all.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, your analogy of keeping your hands on the wheel, it's important, right? None of this happens passively. And again, we are not victims, right? We're not puppets in our own lives.
Yeah.
We are our own creators, right? To take it to an architectural example,
Yeah.
we get to design our own lives. We get to draft up the blueprints of our own lives. And so we have to take that initiative. We have to be really, really specific about what we want,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to build that solid foundation
Yeah.
before
And
we go vertical.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what I was gonna say about the architecture thing. All right. So you and I literally have the same educational background. Okay. So for anyone who did not know, I have a master's in architecture.
Hey.
Okay. I have an undergraduate degree in architecture studies. And then I also have a master's degree in architecture. You have two people sitting here with the same educational background, but with two different visions. And it's important to know, because this is for the people who like to say, well, he's already doing that. She's already doing that. And the thing is, as I did and kept going in architecture, I think I knew early on, Des, you always heard me. I'm always talking junk. I think I knew early on that this is not something I'm put here to do, but I think it was necessary for me to do it, if that makes sense. I don't regret spending all that time in school, because everything that I learned, even from Fritz, even from standing and having to speak up about why I decided to design what I decided, and even having an idea enough to bring it from conceptual idea to reality, those things are very important and I don't regret it. But I need people to realize that just because we on paper might look like we have the same capabilities, I don't want to go where he wants to go. And I think people have to realize this, because when you keep comparing and contrasting, you're comparing, it's like if we're doing the car analogy, you're just comparing the color, you know? But the inside is completely different. The car functions completely different. It's going somewhere different. It's just the color. So I just wanted to bring that up because, like, I ain't gonna lie, like, I'm not gonna sit for the ARE. I'm not. If I ever wanted to, I could. That's the good thing. If I ever wanted to, I could. But it is my conscious decision not to sit for the ARE, pay all that money, and try to knock it out like Des did.
It's everyone's path is different, and no one's path is more right than anyone else's.
I empathize and sympathize with those. Well, how can I say this? With the idea that there aren't a lot of African American architects, and it does hurt that I could have changed that number and continue to add to that, especially with so many people who graduated with us from FAMU. So you're hoping that that number changes, but the harsh reality is, when we start to figure life out and go into life and see what it is that we like, we start to realize that some things are not as strong or as passionate as we thought it would be. So it would be more of a disservice to do something knowing that it's not where my heart is, than to do it just to kind of fit the bill and try to change the system, but then you're actually not changing it because in a few years you're not going to want to do it. So that's kind of where I am. I do hate that, but.
Well, no, I think you bring up an excellent point. And one thing that I try to live by is, like, there's a quote that says, "Comparison is the thief of joy." You shouldn't. No one should compare themselves to anyone else to make yourself seem larger than or smaller than. Period. Because that's not what we're built for. We're built to live our own, like, unique and authentic lives.
Yeah.
And one person's path is not necessarily another person's path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard something similar to that. I don't know if it was Rich Dad Poor Dad or someone was giving a motivational speech, but it was about two guys, I guess the owners of like KFC and like Burger King was eating together. And I guess someone's seen that and they're like, you guys can do that? You guys are not like, in competition? How can you do that? And it was like, no, we're not in competition with each other. So it's like they both are fast food restaurants, but they serve two completely different things.
Right.
So I understand. Let me just say this. I understand conceptually what that means. I understand that, okay, what I'm doing is not like what somebody else doing. But let me tell you what happens when they start to reap what it is that you wanted. So like if KFC is making more money than Burger King, now you start to compare. You shouldn't compare, you're right, because we serve two different foods. We have two different people that we're serving. We have the people who love chicken and the people who love burgers, and then the people who like both. But the fact of the matter is, what happens in the comparison is when you start to see what they have, what they got, what is it that you're working towards and you hope to also have. And it seems easy. Don't get me wrong. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I know it's not right, but this is how I deal with it sometimes. I'm like, all right, I know. Stop it, Esther. You guys are doing two different things, two different target audience. But then it's like, how they did it? Why they got to do it? Like, how they get there? So you're right. It is a thief of joy because look, at that point, I get defeated, and then it's like I'm not posting anything today. So I agree with you, but I just wanted to play devil's advocate because
that's
honest. How we feel.
That's I appreciate your honesty. That's real.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the important thing is, like, what do you learn from that? It's one thing to look at another person's quote unquote success and learn something. It's another thing to look at it and like revel in this jealousy or this envy. So
exactly. So like I said earlier about vision kind of being a glimpse of your purpose, do you think right now with where you are in life, do you feel like you're seeing a glimpse of maybe where God wants you or maybe where you should be in life? Like, what would you say is the glimpse that you see?
No, that's a loaded question. Um,
Okay, unpack. Give me a little bit. Give me a little bit.
I'll give you a
Yeah.
little bit of time. So I will say like and this may not be where you're trying to go, but it's where I'm going to take it.
Okay.
I think my safe space, my happy space for so long has been like my career, because that's one place that I have excelled in, right? Not to sound like braggadocious, but
Mhm.
I've done well. I can walk into a boardroom, I can run a meeting, and I can design a building like the best of them. So that's one area that I've that's been my safe space.
Mhm.
And in so many ways, I feel like God is leading me out of that safe space,
Mhm.
right? So there are so many other aspects of my life that are starting to take more and more oxygen away from the career. Um, and I feel like that's where I'm being led. It's a little uncomfortable, right? I think some people are comfortable in different places. Some people are
Yeah.
much more comfortable, I don't know, serving in their church, or much more comfortable like leading a household, like
Yeah.
serving their families. My career has been my safe space. But I think certainly in this new decade of my life in my 30s, my career will continue to be important to me, but like really focusing on like my relationships, focusing on hopefully starting and building a family. Um, those things are starting to become more and more important to me. Um, and so that's the glimpse of vision that I see for my life.
Wow.
Um,
Mhm.
if I do try to look at it in terms of like career and mentorship, now that I feel like I'm at a place where I've done like if I achieve nothing else career wise, I feel like I've done enough. Um, and I want to start to really extend opportunities to people coming behind me. That's something that's really important to me. So the idea of mentorship um, is continuing to become just much more critical.
Yeah.
Working with students, working with young people, particularly people of color, I see that being something that is going to take up more and more space as well. So I think those are two areas where I see glimpses of where my footsteps would traverse next.
Right. I like that. One thing that you said that I hope people really understood and got is that that whole comfortability thing. I you see, here's the thing about learning. You'll learn something, but then something that's similar will come along, and then it's like you kind of have to learn it even more. Like I learned the fact that being in a comfortable place can stunt your growth. You know, I learned that. And I remember one time I was put in a position where I had to like shift everything. It was a big transition. Everything was different. But then you find yourself comfortable again. And it's like, all right, Esther, you learned last time. But then it's like, this is a little different because I got to go even higher. So just like I heard before, where it's like every step on the staircase looks the same, but you're getting higher. So it's the amount of sacrifice that has to be made to get out of the next comfortable state. So when you said that, that's what I kind of thought about. And I was thinking about the fact that life is like hitting milestones, kind of. And I think once and now that you have hit the milestone of your career, not to say that you've arrived and this is it, but you achieved it. You navigate this space, you understand it. But as far as your relationship goes, or building a family, those are new. Those are completely realms that you have not yet touched. So it's like it's gonna be uncomfortable. And I think with our vision, people have to realize that, yeah, you're stepping out on faith and you're about to do this great big thing that everyone can't wait to see. But you have to realize that um, you're going to have to be uncomfortable in
Yeah,
order to get what it is that you're supposed to be doing and the product that you're supposed to have. I guess what I'm really trying to say is if you keep doing things and it's all in a very comfortable state, you're gonna make comfortable decisions.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And you're just gonna go so far. Like, okay, I'm just gonna get a little deep, sorry, but I'm gonna
No.
say this. Yesterday I was talking to my husband and I was just letting him know how I felt about maybe this season I'm in spiritually. Because as you've known, I've always been a Christian, and every season is different for me. And I was just telling him, and I said, one day I felt like I was talking to God, and I'm just like, I should have been where I wanted to be by now. Like I was saying that, and I told him that I really believe that God was telling me that I don't. I would have had you also to be there a little earlier, but this is what you choose because of the way you navigate. And I know I'm saying a whole lot of something, but what I'm really trying to say is that there's so much I want to do, and I'm trying to wonder, like, why is it that now I'm 30? It's taking me so long to get to this space, and I really do believe that God is like saying, "Well, I would have had you get there earlier." So I think sometimes we have to realize with this whole comfortable thing is that you're prolonging a process, and then you're like, all right, I'm ready. You ever see like remember we talked about the whole old thing, and there's a woman or a man and he's like, all right, I'm finally gonna do it, I'm finally gonna do this thing. And you ever wonder why it took so long for them to finally do it? And I think that's what comfortability can do to you. It can literally keep somebody at the age of 50 thinking, hey, I'm not ready. I can't do it, you know? And now it's 50 and you've never started the cupcake business or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. I feel like anyone could do anything as early as they would like to. Of course, not prematurely, so you don't go crazy. But I do think that comfortability can literally stunt your growth and will prolong something for no reason. For
Yeah.
no reason.
Yeah. And it's that that's good. I like that. That was good. But it's never too late. When we were talking before about you don't like the cold, I don't like the cold, and it's funny like when it's mornings when I wake up, my warm, comfortable bed, and it's cold, I don't want to get out of bed because I'm comfortable in that bed. And sometimes I get up later, like I'll sleep an extra 30 minutes, maybe an hour. But when I do finally get up and get out of the bed and face, in this case, the discomfort is the cold,
Yeah.
I can start my day. And I think I don't want it to sound like it's just that easy, but
Yeah.
in some ways it is just that easy. Like half the battle is just getting out of bed. It's just taking that first step. It's putting your foot on the cold floor and taking a step. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have that battle every morning.
Mm.
Like the battle to go to the gym. Literally, you're right. Like being at the gym is not my issue. It's
It's
getting up
getting there.
for the gym. Yeah, it's
Yep.
getting there. Once I'm there, I'm gonna do what I need to do. But it's the battle of I gotta leave my comfortable bed. I gotta put on all this clothes. I gotta drive. But once it's done, there's a benefit of, a healthy lifestyle, a healthy body. So I think we're kind of touching a little bit more on the whole, discipline side, but I feel like that's kind of where I am right now. Like I'm really trying to be disciplined in what I do because I realize that if we want God's best for our life, the most simplest thing we have to start with is discipline. It's not even, it don't even have to be scriptural based. It doesn't even have to be anything else. It's literally just discipline.
Yeah.
If we have discipline in all the things that we do, I think people could really live purposefully and it'll be easier, but that's not the reality. But okay, I know we said a whole lot, and I'm so happy. Like I told you, I'm so ready for this area. But I just want to kind of touch a little bit on COVID as my last question. We were talking a little bit earlier. So what would you say? How did COVID affect you when it came to your career and it came to everything that goes on in your day to day?
So COVID has been this huge intergalactic bummer that has really impacted everyone differently.
Yeah.
Thankfully, like I'm healthy, my family continues to be healthy. So in the grand scheme of things, having no room to complain.
Yeah.
Um, but what it did do is it did shake my faith in a number of different ways. It shook my faith in terms of my career stability.
Yeah.
Um, I've only been at like my current job, this firm, for less than a year. So I started right before COVID got bad.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about anxiety, right? First you have the anxiety of the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have the anxiety of being like the new hire. And so we did have to have, I mean, our firm downsized, um, and like a lot of other companies did. And so that was anxiety inducing,
Yeah.
um, just not knowing what happened next. But what it did do is gave me a whole lot of perspective, like more perspective than I think I would have had otherwise. Well, a lot of people were complaining about 2020 being like this dumpster fire. I think 2020 was like this magnifier. It just it gave us more vision, like 2020 vision. Um, so I'm not glad COVID happened by any means, but um, I'm glad that it was able to teach me a lot about what's important in life.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that is not being so um, afraid of the unknowns of the future,
Yeah.
and it's instead like taking charge of my own destiny in some way. Um, there's a quote that I have. It's hanging up on my wall, um, and I'm gonna get it wrong. Um,
You
it's
see
not
it
on the
every
wall
day,
in
but
this
you
room.
like,
It's on my wall in another room, but it says something along the lines of, "Don't downgrade your dreams to match your reality.
mhm.
Upgrade your faith to match your vision."
Ooh, send that to me. Take a picture. Take a picture and send
Okay,
it to me later.
okay, yeah. Don't downgrade your dreams to match your reality.
Mm-hmm.
Upgrade your faith to match your vision.
I like that.
And in so many ways, like the COVID era, like our reality has been terrible. It has like it stunted some of my dreams a little bit because of just what the economy was doing.
Yeah,
Um, but I think it required me to upgrade my faith instead. And so that's what I've been able to do in the past, few months, upgrade my faith.
I like that. And it kind of goes back to the whole comfortability thing because a lot of people were probably shook and got whatever spectrum of COVID and had to realize, like, oh, I was getting comfortable. Things are not as they seem. I can't just assume that um, waking up every day and going to this job is going to be my new reality. Like, everyone's normal changed.
Yeah.
Everyone's normal completely changed. And I think that's exactly why we have to be flexible human beings when things like this happen, because if we get so comfortable with things and we don't prepare ourselves for that, like you said, anxiety steps in because we're so systematic. Wake up every day, go to work, wake up every day, go to do, like, we're so systematic, and now something went and shook it, and then it's like, what do I do now? So I think with COVID and even me, like I'm a very systematic person sometimes, but then I throw a curveball and I'm very loose. But I definitely learned that with working from home, that God was giving me some type of rest, and not just rest, but also an opportunity. Because I ain't gonna lie to you, Des, right before it happened, I was going to ask them for time to work at home on Fridays. And I'm not saying God made COVID happen because that one thought I had.
So this is all your fault. You did this.
No. But what I'm saying is that um, no matter how certain people, got in whatever situation concerning COVID, I think what you said about upgrading their vision or upgrading their faith to match their vision is exactly what God might be asking some people to do. Mind you, I don't know what people's situations are. Like, I could probably be hitting a nerve right now, and I apologize. But for the people who are at home, who's just mad, look at the opportunity, upgrade, revisit the plan, refurbish it, and just make it match each other and don't get discouraged. That's basically what I'm trying to say. It's not my fault. Sorry, guys.
That's good. No, I think that's good. That's a healthy dose of reality that we all need sometimes.
Yeah. All right. I think those are all the questions I had for you tonight, Des. If I could, I'd keep you here. I really would.
Well, Esther, I appreciate the opportunity and I've enjoyed the conversation. So
Thank you. Thank you
thank you
so
for
much.
having me. My name is Desmond Johnson and I envisioned my vision. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.